The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome to the webinar. My name's Philip Smith and I'm the Head of News and Content at Cision UK, and I'm delighted to welcome you to an introduction to inbound marketing for SMEs. We have a lot of ground to cover in today's webinar, so I'll introduce our speaker in a moment. But I do want to remind you all that this is the latest webinar in Cision's Festival of PR series. However, rest assured, it is not essential to have seen previous presentations in the series to listen in and take part in today. Today's webinar very much stands on its own. So, what are we going to be looking at today? Over the next 45 minutes or so, we're going to hear a presentation on inbound marketing from our special guest, an expert in the area, Julia Payne. But rest assured, we'll also be making time for your questions too. So use the panel on the right-hand side of your screens to submit questions and feedback to us, and we look forward to putting Julia on the spot with your questions. I'm delighted to introduce Julia Payne, today's presenter. She is the co-founder and director of Incisive Edge, a specialist inbound marketing agency. Julia has worked across sales and marketing for the past 20 years. As a strategist, she's worked for some of the world's biggest companies, including Microsoft, GSK, Carillion and Honda, and government departments, including the Cabinet Office and the HM Prison Service, and indeed 2 royal families. She says she focuses on 2 core areas of business. That's commercially driven marketing strategies and the alignment of marketing with sales. Her work ranges from creating practical marketing strategies using only the on and offline channels that a client needs to designing multi-channel digital campaigns. And over the next 25 minutes or so, Julia's going to talk about the marketing that we use to aim to raise brand awareness and to incentivize target audiences to convert into leads and ultimately sales. She'll be talking about the plethora of channels and marketing activities to choose from, but making sure that we can enable our marketing efforts to pay off. And ultimately, she'll be looking at the key for SMEs to make inbound marketing successful for them. Topics that we'll be debating include the difference between inbound, traditional and content marketing, the time and resources you need to consider, the different stages of the inbound marketing funnel and how to look at those stages, and how to integrate and align your marketing and sales processes for maximum effect. Anyway, that's more than enough from me at the moment. I'll be back to make sure that I put Julia on the spot with your questions. So do please remember to send in your questions throughout the presentation. And Julia, please start the presentation.
Well, hello everybody. Thanks so much. I'm delighted to be here with you this afternoon. As Philip said, I'm Julia Payne. I'm the co-founder of Incisive Edge, and we're an inbound marketing agency based in Soho in London. So if I just set the scene, we work with a whole raft of clients across all industries and of all sizes. But where we major is in ambitious companies who really want to scale. Our sweet spot is tech companies, but our webinar today is applicable to every single company who wants to grow, and more importantly, who want to shortcut all those errors and wastage that you can make during your growth phase by going down blind marketing alleyways. And that's really important to us, as we don't want anyone to waste money on their marketing, following a strategy or channels that are just not going to help. And it's a real shame, because it just doesn't have to be like that. Marketing today is about being data-led and very specific. Because the fact is, there's so many different routes to market now. How do you know which ones are going to work for you? So we're all bombarded with information about marketing day in, day out. Different platforms, different routes to market, new trends, influencers. The questions are, how do you know what's right for you, your company and your audience? So how do you find out where your target audience really live online and what they really want and need to solve their pain points? And that's really the essence of inbound marketing. How do you pull your target audience towards you, turn them into leads, and then convert them into customers? Because marketing today is all about your customers and clients and not you. And despite all the platforms and the disruptive tech and the channels to market, that is the biggest shift of them all. Your customer is at the heart of everything you do. Human behaviour affects the way we market today and how people buy things. And if I leave you with just one thing today, it would be that your customer is at the heart of everything. And just to emphasise that point, Gartner has said that by 2020, customers will manage 85% of their relationship without talking to a human, which is why inbound marketing is a sleeping giant that is quickly on the rise. So let's dive in. Today, there are essentially two ways to market your business. Traditional outbound, so everything we know, cold calling, direct mail, etc. And then on the flip side, inbound marketing. And although there's these two sides to the coin, the important point here is that your marketing should always and will always be a blend of the two. There's no either or. One should complement the other. So it's really about where you place your emphasis and your budget. And whilst it will always be a blend of the two, the problem is people are sick and tired of being marketed to, and that includes all of us. So how many times do we just go delete, delete, delete to emails, even if it's something that we're interested in? We simply don't have the time. So we're bombarded day in and day out with marketing messages. Latest thinking is that we receive anywhere between about 3,000 and 5,000 marketing messages a day, but about only 100 make it past our attention wall. Your business needs to be one of those 100. There was a survey done last year by the AMIA Institute which shows that 57% of customers are actively taking steps to avoid brands or companies that bombard them with poorly targeted communications. So that's what we're all battling with, how to be heard above the noise whilst not alienating our audience, but still have the opportunity to let them know that we exist, that we have a great product or service, and we're available for business. We're all competing for our target market's attention, and that attention is in decline. We don't want to be interrupted by this outbound approach all the time. And this slide, I think, sums it up. So 99% of people don't actually market in the year that we actually live in. So we're often still tied to channels and ways of marketing that we've always used, rather than embracing the new way of doing things. And if we just take a look at the user numbers of social media channels, so on Twitter, there's 313 million monthly users, Facebook about 1.71 billion active monthly users, and Instagram 500 million. Now those channels may or may not be right for your business, but it goes to make the point that there's other ways of marketing nowadays for where your audience lives, and we all need to embrace those marketing routes. And that's where inbound marketing comes in. So in its very basic terms, it's about giving your audience what they want so they come and find you. It's about engaging in marketing activities that brings visitors, prospects, and ultimately customers into you, rather than you having to go out and sell your wares from scratch. The inbound marketing makes your company easy to be found, and it also earns the attention of your prospects. So in marketing terms, inbound is about lead generation and then nurturing your visitors and your prospects until they are ready to buy, and then converting those leads into customers using a multi-channel integrated approach. And the good news is, on average, inbound practices produce 54% more leads than traditional outbound practices. Because at the end of the day, marketing is there to drive your sales activity, pure and simple. We all want leads. We want to be speaking with people about our products and services and engaging them. So yes, your branding is essential, eye-catching creative design is essential, but you want to sell. So the amount of initial conversations that we have with prospects who say, I want a website and it has to be blue and it has to have 4 boxes on the front, at the end of the day, who cares? Most of that is based on nothing but personal preference. It's certainly not based on their audience and understanding what audience data is telling them about the way their prospects like to consume information, what they want to ponder over, what they want to consider, and how they like to travel across that company's site. So if inbound is about lead generation and speaking directly to your target audience, then it needs context. Because the point is, we don't want to market to everyone. Our budget simply won't stretch that far. We want to be very specific to our audience and help them solve their pain points. So what do we need to do? We need to gather contextual intelligence about what your audience is doing before they come to you. What are their concerns and pain points? What is the problem that they have to solve? And that's important because they're not just idly coming to your site. They're coming because they have a pain point. And then there's the decision-making process. How can you give them the information they need to make their decision? Then we need to deliver your content wherever your customer may be, on whatever device in an automated way, so that your audience actions automatically trigger the delivery of that content within a given time frame. And the ability to manage your marketing processes. So if you want to scale, how can you achieve that in a predictable, repeatable way? You want to be marketing 24/7 in a manner that does not consume all your time and energy and resource. So in essence, an automated process where you're answering your audience's questions. So it's a blend of different elements that make up your marketing strategy. If you like, a blend of art, your brand, creative, understanding what your audience really wants, your channels to market, and then science, understanding what your audience is telling you through your data, your conversions, and by optimizing your content. So it will always be a blend of that data and the creative. And at the heart of all this, your marketing activities must be based on your target audience and not you. So remember, your customer is the beating heart of everything you do. So the first lesson of our Inbound Fight Club is that all your activities should be based on your target audience, or in inbound language, your buyer persona. And because it's so important, we're just going to take a moment and discuss your buyer persona, because this is very much getting away from the idea of spray and pray marketing. If you throw enough mud, send enough emails, someone will contact you. That's very old school thinking. Putting your customer at the heart of everything will take your marketing to a whole new level. But it may require a distinct mindset shift, because that's not the way you've done it in the past. People in companies are worried that they might be losing out by not appealing to everyone. But the fact that you're targeting a specific persona or type creates focus to your marketing and your marketing activities, and allows you to begin to create an integrated process with everything centered around your customers. So let's just look at a buyer persona. What is it? Well, it's a semi-fictional representation of your ideal customer based on market research and real data about your existing customers. So if nothing else, if you wrote down all the traits of your existing customers, you would start to see a pattern emerging which would form the basis of your persona. So a buyer persona tells you what your prospective customers are thinking, what they're doing, their attitude, their concerns, where they might live online, their priorities, their decision-making process, and their buying journey as they weigh up the options to address their problem. And that is the problem that your company can help them solve. So it's far more than just a demographic profile. It incorporates a human element, because it's that human element that affects our marketing. And we know that from ourselves. We want to be marketed to as an individual. And what we say is everyone in your company can't cite your buyer persona. It's not sufficiently defined or communicated, because it's one of the main differences between outbound marketing and inbound. The way people make their buying decisions has changed. So previously, people would have relied on a salesperson to inform them about their product or service because they couldn't get the information elsewhere. A sales team would have a very different role in the past, to inform and educate, because how else did you get that information? Now though, people have total information access and they come to your website informed, or at least partially informed, having done their research. So you may have seen research by Forrester, I mean it's all over the web, which shows that people are 57 to 70% of the way through their decision-making process when they come to your website. So that raises two crucial points. If your site can't be found, then you're not even going to be in the game, and your competitors win, even though you may have by far the better product or service. And the second, how do you attract your buyer persona, so your target audience, to your site? Why will they come to your site? So let's take a look at this as a process, and this is a process or buying decision making journey that we use. And the important point about this is it is a process which makes it predictable, repeatable, and then scalable. So imagine being able to turn your lead generation on and off at will. It's not about following the latest marketing fad or trend or getting more and more pieces of software which you then don't know what to do with. It's about doing a few things really well. So this process is used to attract visitors and prospects to your website and then convert them into leads through engagement, and then by having engagement points on your website, which I'm going to talk through in a minute, and which will demonstrate that it's not about what colour your website is that's important, it's the engagement and the conversion points. So following on from attract, then you want to convert people and then onboard them into customers by nurturing them so you're front of mind when they're ready to buy. And then ultimately you want to retain them and upsell to them through providing a superb customer experience and then remaining in front of them through your ongoing marketing. So if we just have a look at this, a quick refresher of the inbound process shown as a sales funnel with a key selection of marketing activities and maybe your marketing activities against each. And what we're going to do is take each one of these stages in turn, from strangers who arrive at your site through to visitors, converting them into leads, onto customers, and then becoming advocates of your brand. So firstly, if we look at attract, you may say, well, that's all very well, Julia, but we've tried everything to attract people to our site, but it just doesn't work. Either they won't come, or they come, they leave, and then they don't return. So the question is, what will attract people to your site? And that answer is content. So value-led, educational, informative content that is going to engage your audience, which they will learn from and which will keep them coming back for more. So just some stats for you. Companies that increase blogging from 3 to 5 times a month to 6 to 8 times a month almost double their leads. So content and content assets are crucial, and they can take many shapes and forms. So it might be your website pages, blogs, news, longer form content such as ebooks and guides, thought leadership, videos, huge nowadays, infographics, huge again, product, data sheets, and then your case studies and your testimonials. So the top 3 content formats that B2B buyers seek out to research their purchase decisions are white papers, followed by case studies, and then webinars. So the list of content assets goes on, but the important points are your content must be value adding to your audience, and it must be optimized for the search engines. So gone are the days of put it on your site and they will come. You have to promote your content, and the cornerstone of that promotion is SEO, so search engine optimization. So from research done by Microsoft, visitors only spend 10 seconds on your homepage before leaving if they don't immediately connect with your marketing messages. So that goes back to your buyer persona, being able to see themselves in the picture straight away. If your initial messaging or your positioning is about you, you're losing a valuable opportunity for your audience to really see themselves in the picture. So 68% of all organic clicks go to the top 3 search results, and 75% of search engine users never ever scroll past the first page of search results. So if you have your buyer persona, then your content, then you need your content to be found. So SEO will help to attract prospects who are searching using specific keywords. So for example, if you're looking for information on fintech marketing, you would put the phrase fintech marketing in the search engine. That's your keyword or your key phrase. If you wanted an agency in London, you may put in fintech marketing agency London. Our content then would have to be optimized for the key phrase fintech marketing London to be in with a chance of you finding us. So you can optimize for those root terms, those more obvious terms, and those are very much top of the inbound funnel to attract your audience, or further down the funnel, what's known as long tail terms, so the more detailed phrases that will get you the more targeted traffic. So you've designed your buyer persona and your content, and then you're ready to showcase it on your website. But is your website really designed for your target audience to engage with and to encourage them to take an action? So what we say is your website is the centerpiece of all your marketing activities and is, or it at least should be, your best salesperson. Yet the way companies traditionally approach their websites has a great deal of risk and wasted opportunity. So there's so much opportunity for generating business online that your website shouldn't just be a static picture. It needs to evolve with your audience and encourage them on their buying and their decision-making journey. It needs to become an inbound magnet designed around your target audience and their pain points. So rather than about your company and how long you've been in existence, it really doesn't matter. So we advocate changing your site into that conversion magnet and moving away from a set and forget strategy. Your site should be constantly evolving in line with what your audience data is telling you, full of engagement, calls to action, which we'll come on to. So it's a bit like the supermarket. Every 6 inches of space is accounted for, and that should really apply to your website, so it's working as hard as possible. And because your buyer personas, your website, your content, and your content strategy are the corners of your marketing approach, you need to know who your audience is, design and create your website so it's tailored towards their pain points, provide them with content that's going to engage and convert them, and then give your audience the opportunity to take an action. So after this webinar, if you go back and look at your website, I guarantee you will find more opportunities for engagement. Because, and this is really important, at the end of the day, your audience only really cares about 3 things. So who are you, what's in it for me, and why should I believe you? So who are you is around your value proposition, your competitive advantage, your positioning. The what's in it for me, can I see myself in the picture? Are you speaking to me? How can you help me? And then the why should I believe you, your proof points of credibility, so your case studies, your testimonials. And out of that, to be honest, the only question your audience really wants answered is what's in it for me. So once you have your persona, your website, your optimized content, then you can promote and distribute across all the relevant channels, so email, social, paid, outreach to influencers, PR. A lot of companies still rely on email and try to get more and more out of their existing database. But remember this, your database erodes at, on average, about 23% per year. People leave, they move jobs, they unsubscribe if you're not providing them with relevant content. So you want to be using a multi-channel approach. And it's one of the most often asked questions, which channels to market should we use? And no matter what anybody tells you, the honest answer is promote to the avenues where your buyer persona lives. If that's social media, then you have to go social. If it's on fora, then that's where you need to be answering their questions. Anything else is simply a waste of your marketing budget. And really understanding your persona helps you to define those channels. And then promote what your prospects will be interested in, which is mainly themselves. So your prospects are interested in learning how to solve their problems. Your content should answer that. So companies that excel at lead nurturing through content generate 50% more sales-ready leads at 33% lower cost. So if we recap on the cornerstones of inbound so far, you need a process, so attract, convert, onboard, retain, or whatever works for your business, a defined buyer persona, content that is optimized, value-led, and then promoted, and a website that's going to be your hardest working salesperson. So if you've attracted, then you want to convert from visitors and prospects to leads. So you need to give those visitors mechanisms on your website to convert and to encourage them to do so. So website forms, not just on your contact page, but throughout your site. Sign up to our newsletter or blog subscription boxes. Call to action, so download now, read more, contact us, find out how, free assessment. Get your visitors to take an action and to convert. And your calls to action should then ideally lead to a page, a landing page, so-called, because that's where your visitors land, where more information is given in return for your prospect giving you their contact information. So that could be your value-added content offer, your white paper, your ebook, whatever that might look like to you. And remember to find out what really works. So you need to test call to action A against call to action B. Which of those work best? Then the highest converting against call to action C, and so on. So testing is best when it's slow and steady. If you change too many things at once, you won't know what was or what is making the difference. And then keep evolving your strategy around your audience, so test and learn. The whole idea of convert is that you want your visitor to take an action, to start to engage with you, to actually do something rather than just coming on your website, having a look and then going. And imagine how exciting it is when someone actually contacts you, you get a completed form, someone rings you, they've taken an action, so your lead generation, your pipeline has begun, and it's a process that can run and run. So we've looked at attract and convert, and then we move on to onboard. So now you've attracted people to your site, they've taken an action, you've got their contact details, so you've attracted the right visitors and converted the lead. The next step is to transform this lead into a customer. The question is, how do you do that? Well, an important point to remember, not everyone is going to be ready to convert straight away, and certainly not to the timescale your business wants. So you have to be patient and nurture them through their decision-making journey. And this is where your CRM comes into play. So your CRM, your customer relationship management system, so a Sugar, a Salesforce, a Zoho, that facilitates your sales by making sure you have the right information to better engage with your prospects. So ideally you need a system that integrates the two parts. So your marketing and sales data is integrated into a seamless process, or your CRM is integrated with your website. So someone fills in a form, it alerts you, it goes straight into your database or a specific lead list for nurturing. So you want to encourage your visitor to take the next action in the process. And your CRM and using its functionality to the full is one of your greatest inbound assets, because you want to nurture your audience until they are ready to buy. And if you're not doing that, then your competitors will be. So then the question is, how do you nurture those leads? Well, you know when you sign up for something and you receive a series of emails ostensibly following up and reminding you of special offers or content downloads, that means that you've gone into a specific list called a workflow. So these are designed to make you take another action. So by entering your details, you've triggered a series of marketing actions that are designed to nurture you down that company's buying process and keep you front of mind with the prospect. And that's the real beauty of inbound. It's an integrated system where once you start the process, it's a chain reaction. So someone engages with you through a call to action, they then receive a series of emails, they see you on social, answering questions on a forum, being promoted as an influencer, they might see a press release about you. It all goes to build a picture that answers those other two questions. So who are you and why should I believe you? So what you're doing is building an integrated inbound marketing system, giving you loads of touch points with your audience, which is telling them that you are the company they must do business with. And then finally, moving on to retain. Now, I'm not going to spend overly long on this as it's the end of the sales and marketing funnel. I know most people are interested in the top of the funnel activities around lead generation. But customer experience and satisfaction are now firmly on the horizon. I think today none of us can hope to gain a client and then just leave them to their own devices. They still want to feel that they matter to you. So feedback forms, surveys, and of course more content continuing to answer different pain points they may have are essential to prevent churn firstly, but also to encourage upsells. And one of the questions we get asked frequently is, how do you bring this all together? We're using a load of platforms at the moment. It's a time-consuming process to present end-of-month reports, never mind implement all of this. By the time we've logged into all the platforms, half a day is gone. Now, a crucial element of inbound is a marketing automation platform, which allows you to market across multiple channels online. It integrates your marketing activities and gives you stats on your performance, as well as aligning and integrating your marketing and sales activities. Now, we all know there's a lot of repetitive tasks in marketing, so email, social media, websites. So marketing automation makes those tasks a lot easier by housing it all under one platform. It enables you to nurture your leads through workflows and keep in front of your audience until they're ready to buy, remembering that not everybody will be ready to buy straight away. They may still be in their research phase, but you want to beat the competition and stay with them through their buying journey until they make their decision. So there are a fair few marketing automation platforms out there, it has to be said: HubSpot, Marketo, Silverpot, Intercom, Customer.io. Now, when we wanted an automation platform, we did all the research, had all the demonstrations, and for us, we found that by far the best platform was HubSpot. So it's intuitive, it can be picked up easily by everyone. Also, it's not licensed on the number of users, so everyone within your company can use it rather than opening a myriad of different platforms. You can have one sales and marketing platform that everyone can use and buy into, and where all your marketing can be scheduled and your analytics can be tracked and measured. So we use it every single day. It's one of the very first platforms that everybody logs into in the morning. Now, it has to be said, you can do it across multiple platforms. It's just time consuming, and it's very difficult to get that integrated approach and to report on that. And it's shown that companies who are marketing automation high performance have a lead sale rate of nearly 1.5 times the rate of their competitors, and they have nearly 1.5 times better customer acquisition costs. The companies who use marketing automation also tend to convert 53% more leads to marketing qualified leads. So, by way of a recap and putting what we've discussed into practical terms, let's look at your sales funnel again. So you want to gain visitors, your buyer persona, to your site. You want a website designed for your audience, not you. On your website, you put great content, you optimize that content so it can be found, and then you promote it across the channels that are relevant to your persona. To turn them into leads, you encourage your audience to take an action through a call to action in a form or a landing page, so you get their details in return for the value add you are providing to them. You then keep nurturing them until they're ready to buy, keeping in constant contact. Finally, when they become customers, hurrah, you keep in regular contact with them to show that they really matter and to try and help them with other pain points that they're experiencing. That gives you upsell opportunities. So let's keep these 5 pillars at the front of your mind. So identify your audience, your buyer persona, create and distribute your content, personalize it to your audience. So it goes without saying that addressing an email to a named person is going to attract more interest. It's providing content that your audience wants to engage with. Market for today, not yesterday. Adopt a multi-channel approach and don't let your thoughts about a channel affect whether you use it or not, if that's where your buyer persona lives. And integrate everything you do so you have a seamless, aligned and integrated approach between both marketing and sales. So what results can you expect? So this is data from 2015 with current website traffic. If it's smaller to start with, over a 6-month period, you can expect about 3 times more traffic, and over a 24-month period, nearly 9 times more traffic. For the larger sites, so if it's 2,000 plus, over a 6-month period, that will increase by nearly 1.5, and over 24 months by about 2.5. With lead growth, the increase is even higher. So again, if you're starting with a smaller number, you can expect about 5 times more leads over a 6-month period, growing to over 45 or nearly 45 over a 24-month period. And then if you're starting with more leads and just over times 1, and over 24 months, that goes up to times 14. Now, it has to be remembered these are benchmark figures, but hopefully they give you an indication. Inbound is something that just doesn't happen overnight. You know, it's a slow and steady, but then it grows ahead of steam. So as with anything that's going to generate leads, it needs time, resource, expertise across a wide variety of areas. You need that expertise in those areas. And these are just a few of the things that we really hone in on. Having all those different skill sets in one place rather than having to hire internally and upskill all the people and pull it together to integrate is of real benefit. So working backwards towards our 10-point inbound plan, remember to create your inbound process, so attract, convert, onboard, retain, or one that works for you. And define your buyer personas as at the very heart of your strategy. So not just your demographic, but remembering that they're human and they want to be treated as an individual. Which then brings us on to our 10-point inbound plan. So be clear on your goals for the campaign. Unless you're very clear, you'll be working in isolation or just trying to achieve too many things at once. Just start with 3 clear goals. What do you want to achieve? What do you want your marketing to achieve? Understand your prospect's buying cycle so you can tailor everything you do to them. Create your buyer personas. Create and collate all your content assets, and you will have a lot already. You have to give something of value to your audience. You have to give to receive. Analyze your competition for their strengths and weaknesses. So this can shortcut a lot of the process by getting inside knowledge on your competitors, and is typically one of the starting points that our clients go with. Be very clear on your messaging and value proposition. Make sure your messages speak to your audience. It's not about you. It's about your audience and your buyer persona. Develop your content creation strategy so you're planning out in advance what you need to create to add value at the different levels of your audience's buying journey. Then implement your multi-channel marketing for where your audience lives. Automate so you can spend your time on your strategy, not doing those repetitive tasks. And then test and learn. Understand what your visitor data is telling you, and then revise accordingly. And to leave you with, I thought it would be helpful as a value add if you could just see a small selection of the tools we use to drive results for our clients. And hopefully these will be of use to you. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Julia. Thank you so much for that presentation. Just a reminder to everyone, we're going to have a look at your questions now, and I'm going to put Julia on the spot with those questions. So if you haven't taken the chance already to send them in, please do send in your questions. Now, the first thing I'm going to ask, though, Julia, is looking at the inbound process. You finished off with a 10-point plan and 10 points for people to remember, but looking at the process itself, there are 4 stages: attract, convert, onboard, and retain. I was just wondering, is there a guideline for people in terms of where their budget should go? So whatever my budget is, whether it's £100, £1,000 or whatever, am I putting most of it into the attract phase? Do I split it evenly across the 4? Is there any sort of rhyme or reason to how I should do that, or do I simply put money into one stage and then put it into the next?
Yeah, so it's a good question, and you know, a bit like Sound of Music, you need to start at the very beginning. So if nothing else, put money into defining your buyer persona. It runs through absolutely everything you do, not just your marketing activities, but also your sales activities. It brings focus to the whole process. If you don't have a clear buyer persona, so I don't know, IT Ian, for example, you just tend to continually appeal to everybody. We must go after this person, we must go after that person because they have a pain point that we can solve. But actually, you can't really create an integrated process by doing that. So what we say is start at the very beginning, because once your buyer personas are defined, then you can build on that. If you don't have that cornerstone, then you'll be struggling. However, what I would say as well is, if you have a defined budget, far better to focus on one channel than try and spread that or disperse it across multiple channels. Just because you think you should be doing it or your competitors are doing it doesn't mean to say that, one, you have to do it, and secondly, if you don't have the budget, have to do it. What we find when people come to us is that they're trying to cover kind of a multi-channel discipline, multi-channel program, but they don't have the budget to do it effectively. So define your buyer persona and then think about, if you don't have the budget, where do they live, or do the research. Think about your existing customer base. Where are they? Where do you see them about online? Where do you see them about in real life? And hone in on a single channel to really get the results.
Excellent. I think the clear message for me there is focus, that you don't want to spread yourself too thinly. And I wonder if that's also the big difference, that even a company, and you've worked with some very big companies and we mentioned some names at the start of the webinar like Microsoft and so on, but they follow a process like this, don't they? The inbound process doesn't change whether you're a big company or a small company. There is still the same process, it's just you may be doing it at a different scale.
So that's exactly right. And what I've tried to bring out in the webinar is really kind of a plan for people to follow. So you're exactly right. It doesn't matter whether it's a huge brand or a company starting out. And in fact, in a way, it's easier for a startup to put everything into place properly from the beginning rather than trying to backtrack. But the principles will remain the same. The marketing messages will obviously be different because a brand can talk about themselves more, but actually from an SME point of view, if you focus in on your audience and answer their pain points, that is going to serve you so well. It's just a question of scale between the larger and kind of smaller companies.
Okay. Now, I can see a few questions coming in, so we're going to ask about those in a minute. But one of the first questions was actually, and is a compliment, is thanks for a great presentation. I would like to have a copy of the slides. Is that possible? We shall, of course, make those available to you as long as your name is there and we can see that. We shall make sure that you get emailed the slides and the presentation. Now, another question that's come in is, and I think this is about all of the points that you've covered, Julia, so it's quite comprehensive. To what extent does Julia think this is true for the future of inbound marketing? So is that a case of these points you're making, are they going to be are they still going to be in place for the next 12 months? Do you think that this is a guide to the future as well?
Yeah, so I think I said at the beginning, it's a sleeping giant, and inbound is really only just getting going. So I'd say that we're about 5 years behind America in our approach. But if you think about it, these are just solid principles for marketing. So there is a lot of fluff and nonsense talked about marketing, and it's made to sound like some sort of black art, but it's really not. It's about doing a few key things well and repeatedly doing them, so having a process to do them. So for example, it may be a buyer persona, but it's your target audience. And everybody who's using their marketing budget wants to appeal to their target audience, plain and simple. If you want to engage people on your site, what are you going to do? Well, you need to provide them with something of value. They're not just going to come on your site, have a general look around, think there's nothing there, and then go away and come back. It's just not going to happen. So yes, inbound, it will always be a blend of inbound and outbound, but if we think about it as solid principles that you live by, then yes, this will prevail over the years to come.
Great. Now, you talked about SEO, and there was this whole point of you can produce great content, and you can build a great website, but it needs to be found. And one of the points that you made was SEO is a very important way, and search engines is a very important way for people to find content. The question that's been sent in really is talking about something that we know very well at Cision, which is PR. And this is from someone who says, I read a blog titled "Goodbye SEO, PR is the New King" earlier today. To what extent does Julia think this is true for the future of inbound marketing?
Okay.
So do you feel that SEO is going to be consistently important, and does PR have a value here in inbound marketing as well?
Yeah. So I think we said hello and goodbye to SEO so many times over the years that it's in and out of a revolving door. But so SEO is here to stay. So if you think about it, there's Google, but there's a myriad of other search engines. They need a mechanism of differentiating between sites. So why is one site more popular than the other? They're following, their bots are searching across millions of sites looking for those signals. Now, those signals are given by SEO, so both on-page SEO, so the things that you see, your page titles, your meta descriptions in the search engines, so is that engaging enough for somebody to click on, and then your on-page SEO, so those key pointers for the search engines to find. On-page SEO, one thing. Even more important, and we would say this, if you do one thing in SEO, it is to get backlinks. So a backlink being a linking content on another site that is pointing back to your site, okay, because that shows to the search engines that your site is a credible, believable, trustworthy site. So our view is very firmly SEO is here to stay, and it will be for the foreseeable future. But that doesn't negate the other forms of marketing. So is PR important? Yes, of course it is, because it's a channel, and absolutely that is here to stay. Bringing into the mix, and a trend that will develop over time, is influencer marketing, which links with PR as well. So people who have large communities actually promoting whether it's your product or your service. But again, important thing to remember is marketing is a multi-channel approach for where your audience is. Okay, so if your audience needs to find your website, SEO. If your audience can't read press releases, then PR. However, it's always going to be a blend of the two. But our view very firmly is yes, SEO is here to stay.
Excellent, and I would echo that certainly from what we're seeing, that a lot of PR companies, for instance, would include SEO as part of their service, and what they are doing online is pretty much helping people with SEO. So there is a lot there that is a blend, it is a mix, and it is all intertwined.
And I'll just add into that, you don't just want to limit yourself to one channel, unless your audience only lives in one place, then you only need one channel, but that's just not the case for anybody. So this multi-channel integrated and aligned approach with your sales team is the way forward.
Great, thank you. Now, we've had a request for the 10 points conclusion slide again, so we shall see if we can show that in a second, but also we'll make sure that you get a copy of that as well, so that will be sent on to you. Now, a question, you mentioned that the US was possibly 5 years ahead of the UK market. Here's a very simple question, which I'm sure you can answer within 30 seconds. I don't think so. What is the US doing that we are not? So I think that's easier asked than answered. But Julia, are there any things that you would point to that's happening in the US that's not happening here?
So I would say it's not, what they're not doing, but the thing they are doing is embracing. Okay, so they embrace different new ways of doing things. We are a bit slower, and this is a sweeping generalization, I know, but if you're used to one way of doing things, so a lot of companies will always have used telemarketing, will always be cold calling, it's very difficult to break that mindset because that's the way that you've always done it. So why would you, seemingly want to go out on a limb and try something else? So it's not that they're doing anything better than us or anything different, they're just embracing it or have embraced it slightly earlier than we have.
And actually, you would argue, because I think you said this, that in some ways it's easier for smaller businesses to try new things and to set up in a way to take advantage of something new. So there should be a positive point to that. Now, you said how important the buying persona is, and there's a question here about how you really get to the heart of that buying persona. So what are the most handy means would you advise to identify the buying persona?
Yeah. So buyer personas, a bit like positioning and competitive advantage. So it's very difficult to do it yourself because you're so entrenched in kind of your thinking and the way that you've done it, and it's your company and you're so close to it. So the first point that I would make is it's always easier to get somebody else to work from the outside in to work with you on your buyer persona. But if you think about them, and this is enough, that you think about them as a human being rather than somebody that you want to sell to. You know, if you give them a name, so IT Ian, you know, and think about, you know, where does he kind of live physically, for example, you know, so it may be Surrey, what does he do, is he a family person, you know, think about kind of his life, you know, what does he read, you know, how does he get into the city if he works in the city, and then think about kind of the human traits. So, okay, what would be his pain points? If he's working in, you know, a target audience client, what would be his pain points? You know, what are the questions? So think from your own experience, and a really good starting point is to speak with your sales team if you have one, or if you're doing sales yourself, kind of think about what are the questions that you are asked time after time, and then create the persona around those questions, because that will give you your buying journey. So people will phone into the office, they'll be asking top of the funnel kind of awareness questions. You know, can you send me this? Can you tell me more about your product? As they make their way down the buying funnel, those questions will become more and more detailed. So think about what you're asked, and then that will start giving you the very essence of what your buyer persona is interested in, because those are the pain points that they need answers to.
Julia, you say that it's helpful to have someone look at almost your business from the outside and help you work with you on a buying persona and developing the buying persona and identifying your target audience and your potential clients. Are there other stages of the inbound process where it's helpful to have a third party on board? Are there other parts of those stages where it's essential actually you handle it in-house, that you as the person who runs the business are best placed to deal with? Are there any hard and fast rules there?
So as I said, and you just kind of alluded to, so buyer persona, positioning, messaging, your competitive advantage. So that is always better done with an external person. The other areas, so creating a content strategy. You know, so many companies still don't have a defined, written down content strategy. Now, we all know what it's like, you know, time pressures of the day, there's never enough time. So that will be one thing that always gets pushed to the back of the queue, which means that you will constantly be reactive on your content. You know, oh, we need to produce some content, you know I need to blog, that attracts people, what should we write about, you know, and you'll rush something out. But actually working with someone to have a defined content strategy where you think about the different stages of the decision-making funnel, the buying journey, and plan out the content that you need for those journeys. Because the other thing is that makes it a lot easier. So say you're engaging on social and an influencer picks you up or follows you, you can ask them for an interview, that then feeds into your content strategy. So you don't have to be creating this content by yourself all the time. The other area, or two areas I would say, is SEO. Please do not be swayed by the probably 15 emails that you've had today already in your inbox, you know, from outsourced companies promising you the earth with your SEO. You know, it simply is not the way forward, and a poor, bad SEO profile is very difficult to eradicate. So if you suddenly find that you've got kind of backlinks or links pointing to your site from 100 Chinese porn sites, it's going to be very difficult to get rid of those. So please go to a professional for your SEO. And then the final point I would say is maximising your marketing automation. So if you're going to use a marketing automation platform, work with an agency to get that set up properly, to get your lead flows, your workflows, the whole nurturing process set up properly from the beginning, because that will pay huge dividends in the long run.
Great. Thank you, Julia. I'm afraid one of the worst parts of my job is that I always run out of time, and I'm afraid that's all we've got time for your questions today. But I do want to thank you all for listening in, and particularly for sending in your questions. For those of you who've asked, we'll make sure that you get copies of the presentation and slides, and we shall make sure that we get those details out to you. I do want to finish by reminding you all to keep an eye out for future webinars from Cision UK at cision.co.uk. And of course, I want to finish by thanking Julia Payne from Incisive Edge for her guide to inbound marketing. Julia, thank you.
You're more than welcome. Thank you, everybody.
And finally, I want to thank you all on the webinar for listening in, taking part and sending in your questions. See you next time. The webinar is now over.